I'm Shamana Curtis, and very briefly I want to share with you why we're hosting this meeting and what we hope to accomplish. So about in December, there were community meetings that began in December, and we had 4 of them each month. And at one of these meetings, people were talking about, well, what's going on in Hamilton? And each time they would talk, we would say there are already resources available, but it was like the community didn't know. So a group of us got together with the city of Hamilton and we said, hey, what if we did an informational series that talked about different things that were going on in the community? So this is the beginning of the first of 5 sessions, and we've kind of targeted them to talk about community development, which is our first one, which gives you an overview of what are the economic development things that are happening in Hamilton. Then we have a series of them talking about housing, entrepreneurship, how to set up a business. And the whole goal is, have you heard the adage, information is power, knowledge is power. So our goal is to give you information on where to get resources, tools, where to find stuff, so that as a community, we can then be a better community. So with that being said, Liz, you want me to just go ahead and kind of share with them our kind of plan? So our plan for this evening is we're going to talk about an overview, give you a foundation of what's available. Then again, each week we're going to build upon it. And then if you have questions that we're going to cover later in a series, we're going to kind of put them in a parking lot or put them on a Post-it note. So then that way we can stay focused on the items that we have. And it's going to be very informal and informational. So they're going to present their presentation. We have Mallory and Jody from the Economic Development Department, and then we're going to have an opportunity for you to do questions and answers. You want them to do it like within the session, make it real informal, so if you have questions, just ask, but our goal is to get everyone the basic information that we have, then we'll also host questions and answers at the end. Sound good? Okay, without any further ado, let's go right in.
So this microphone doesn't actually amplify, it's just recording for the recording in the back. So I will try to speak loud. Can everyone hear me? You can hear me? Okay, so full disclosure, there's like 100 slides in this slide deck, but they're mostly pictures. So we're not going to spend a ton of time on each slide. We're just going to kind of run through them. We're going to start with doing like a general economic development overview. So today isn't really, so the next session, the 2nd and the 5th section will be about economic development, starting your own business, setting up shop. That's Bo. Today is going to be just general economic development, what's happening all over town. So we're going to focus, we're going to kind of go in a spiral. We're going to start with manufacturing and kind of the outer rings and work our way into the urban core kind of by general geographic area so that we can hit all the economic development that's happening all over town. Then we're going to go into some of the initiatives that our department has going on right now, and then what's coming soon, which is everyone's favorite. So we will kind of highlight new businesses and things that are coming to town, and then we'll leave a lot of room for questions and open discussion. So I'm going to introduce Jody Gunderson, Director of Economic Development. He's going to start off the first half. So.
Great, thank you. First and foremost, if I was to look at economic development, this is a pretty simplified slide, but it really is the purpose of which is to increase the tax base, create jobs, and retain jobs, and then improve your quality of life. So, and you'll be able to see a little bit of that as we're going through our slides today. So really, if you take a look at Hamilton Enterprise Park, that's really where a lot of our new businesses are going. It's shovel ready, and what's a big deal about shovel ready for economic development is I have a company and it sees a chunk of land. When we say it's shovel ready, is the investment's already been there. All the infrastructure is waiting at the property line, which is a big deal, especially nowadays for companies that give us a very short window from which they are expecting to be under construction and operational. This slide here gives you an idea about some of the businesses that exist in Hamilton Enterprise Park, and some of them that are new. I'll start with Synergy. Synergy just recently purchased some land in the park. They've been in there for a number of years, but again, it's a company that is expanding, and in the next year or so, we're going to see their flavoring company. We're going to see additions to their facility there as well. Vinyl Max is another one of the companies, by the way, they're hiring. You'll hear that resonating throughout some of our conversation here is we've got a lot of jobs that are available, and we would love to help our companies fill them. The reality is that's how we're going to keep our companies. If we can keep people number one employed, which is good for people, it's also good for the local economy, but it's great to help us retain our businesses and get them to expand as well. Bethesda, Tri-Health, they've made a number of expansions in the last several years. Their last one was $26 million investment in the hospital there. MA Folks is located out in that park as well. JWF Technologies is a new company. It's under construction. They're going to have 45 jobs there. They're making an investment of $4.2 million in their facility there, and they are just excited about being a part of Hamilton, and we are as well. It's fun to talk to people that are moving their businesses here, and the way that they talk about this community and how glad they are to be here. I'm excited for them. Neutering is a company that's been here for a while. They just recently upgraded some of their equipment. They'll be adding some jobs as well. 80 Acres is probably the one that you've heard most of, and they're a little bit of a moving target these days because I should say that the city manager is really pushing this. He is really pushing for us to be able to get as much as what they are going to do, whatever they're creating, whatever their partnerships involve. We're really pushing for that to land in Hamilton. So if you look at what they're proposing to do in Hamilton Enterprise Park, think about $35 million investment, $35 million and 40 new jobs. If you go to the next slide, you'll be able to see that building. You've seen that under construction. Same company, 80 acres. They'll be growing. It's a hydroponic. It's a vertical hydroponic greenhouse. And if you look at those lights there, what they do is they control the growth of their crop. And it happens so quickly, you could turn like a kale crop within about 3-4 weeks. That's how quickly you can turn a crop. And what's nice about it is it's really organic. I mean, they don't use pesticides. They don't need to. So it's very healthy. They're making a $4 million investment in our downtown. We're also working with them. I say stay tuned because we'll probably eventually be making even more of an announcement as it relates to this company. Because again, we're trying to get them to do as much as we can. This is a very, very much a cutting edge company. So much so that we anticipate that the partnerships that they have with other companies, we hope then to also bring those companies to the community. So I'd say stay tuned. I'm feeling pretty comfortable that we'll be able to land them. ThyssenKrupp, over the last, I'd say since 2011, this is what I find to be very important, that this was one of the businesses that I inherited when I came to the city. I'd worked for the city about 7 years. In 2011, they had 185 employees that worked at ThyssenKrupp. Today, they have over 800 employees. They've had a number of expansions. And the reason why I say that this is important is, first of all, they too are one of those advanced manufacturing companies. But not only the advanced manufacturing, they grow in this community. And every chance they get, they're looking to expand in our community. When they had options to do so elsewhere, we were able to work with them and catch every one of their expansions. Barclays is important. It's right across the street. You know, what's important from our perspective, again, is being able to spread out where development takes place in the city. It doesn't just happen in one place. You know, I think that there's an overarching message that you're going to get as we go through these slides. Development happens and is happening everywhere. We want it to happen even more so in a lot of other places, but there's going to be I think a reoccurring theme, and that is organization and involvement of the neighborhoods and the people that live there. Their engagement is going to help bring development back to a lot of these areas. Markham is a great example. That's a great, so far they are up to about 500 employees and currently in hiring. They too have made about a $9.3 million investment in that building alone. Salvenini, an Italian company, they've been in the city for a while as well. Once again, another one of those great companies I've been fortunate to inherit as an economic developer. They're going through a $8.5 million expansion to their existing facilities right off Bypass 4 and adding 15 new positions. These are very good positions. This is a very good company. And again, they say nothing but great things about being one of the companies in Hamilton. Valio, recently, when they made their expansion of 100 jobs, they also made an investment of $15 million in order to do so. This is the one I was going to touch on real quickly as it relates to ThyssenKrupp Bilstein. This project is being developed to the back of Bilstein property. ThyssenKrupp is going to be leasing about 145,000 square feet, 143,000 square feet of this space here. They'll have a connected tunnel to this property here. This is a separate developer. This developer also built an additional 144,000 square feet just for speculative purposes, meaning that they feel confident in the market of Hamilton and the regional area here, that they're willing to make that expenditure knowing that they're going to be able to attract more business to that site. This is another one. DCT was purchased by ProLogis. You might have heard of ProLogis. They're the largest industrial real estate property owner in the world. Well, they purchased this company, and this company here had already started on Enterprise Drive. They're constructing 156,000 square feet of speculative space, meaning they do not have anyone to go into it thus far. What's great about this is, again, this is a development firm that views Hamilton in a way that they're willing to take on that risk, that they feel that comfortable about their ability to attract a tenant for that building, that they are willing to go ahead and build that building and incur those costs without a tenant to go into it. I would say, though, I think it's a pretty good bet because we've pointed a nut. I mean, you could see the walls up and you could see the roof going up on it right now, but it's not completed. And I think in the meantime, they're expected to be completed this spring. What I would say about it is that we've probably pointed about 5 prospects to there, just in the meantime that while this is being built. That's how confident we are and they are about the market. Influx is another one of our companies. This went into, and again, this used to be owned by DCT, the one I just covered. It's owned by ProLogis now. ProLogis bought DCT. This building here has got a number of companies in it. It's a logistics company to the rear of the property and about 120,000 square feet of it, but we've got about 120 jobs in Influx. Influx is a company that is a wholly owned subsidiary of Procter & Gamble. Great name to have in any community. We're extremely proud that they're in the city of Hamilton as well. The jobs that are there are highly, highly specialized jobs. They are, I bet every one of the jobs that they have at that place on average exceed over 100,000. That gives you an idea of the skilled profession that they have brought to that building there. They are in the news all the time. They are cutting edge. I fully intend to read more and more about companies adopting their technology because it is really amazing. Oh, there we got University Commerce Park. This is a project that we're working on. It's kind of beginning to evolve, and I think it's kind of evolved a little bit to the point where, again, it's nice when people have confidence in the local economy. This project is located right across from Miami University, and they're proposing to put in, I believe it was 204 units. But what's happened in this particular case is they're a group that is, main investors are a consortium of doctors, and they're looking at this and they're saying, okay, what would, if we could, how could we accelerate the residential aspect of this project, and what are the amenities they think that are very important? Commercial is one of those amenities they find very important, and what they're going to come back to the city, they've currently purchased about, I think it was about 15, 20 acres from the city. They're going to come back and pitch us on the commercial. They would like to do the commercial and the residential together. So you're looking at something that's happening in a more expedited manner than even we thought, which is great. Again, I read that, and I think anyone would read that as confidence in a local economy. I don't know any other way that you would be able to read it. That's going to be an area that's going to have some form-based zoning. You're going to see some mixed-use development where you'll see the commercial and the residential together. That I know is going to be a great project for this area here. Wanted to point to another one of our local companies that's been around forever, Chivac. These guys are they are a quiet giant. They are doing some things that are very impressive. They're getting a lot of press because they're reaching into foreign markets. They're doing a lot of stuff overseas, and what they've done is they've expanded in their existing facility, and they've really adapted to some of the space that they have. And then they've also created a training and showroom for their facility. They bring people in, they train them on their equipment, and it's gotten to be something that we should be very proud of. They've really positioned themselves well as a company, and they're doing extremely well. They've been in Hamilton and are a proud company that's been here for quite some time. Dharana Hybrid is a company that's going to invest $50 million in, I don't know if you guys are aware of the building that's on 903 Bell. It's a big L-shaped building along the railroad tracks. The former mayor used to own the building. It had sat vacant for quite some time. And Dharana Hybrid is a company that came up from Tennessee. We recruited them up. They're currently in City Hall. They were going to build a new building out in Hamilton Enterprise Park. And they saw this building come along and said, you know what? What do you think? And I said, we'd love for you. Because from my perspective, the closer my businesses can be where the people are that are working at them, I mean, that live work just makes it so much easier. And if they can find people that work from the neighborhoods that can literally walk to work, they're excited about it. I'm excited about it. They're going to make a $15 million investment. You drive over there today, you're going to see not only the improvement on the inside, it's already improved tremendously. They've got people working on a new roof for that building, but in and around that property, you can see how well they've cleaned it up. When they're done with that, we won't recognize it, but we're certainly going to be proud that it's in the neighborhood. It's in one of those old industrial spots, and I'm very excited about them. They're a company that does work for Amazon and for Coca-Cola and a lot of these bottling plants. They're automated lines that they work on. They design them and they install them. It's very impressive. But the one thing that I will also tell you about this company that I'm very excited about is they said, look, we understand that it's a very tight labor market. We also understand that there are some people out there that have tripped early in life maybe and done some things they maybe shouldn't have had, made their mistakes. They're a company, they said, we are willing to take a chance on some of those people. So they're the type of company that will hire people that have issues in their background. They'll train them, and it's a very good paying job. People will probably have to travel places, but they make sure that they get back here routinely. And it's one of those companies that I can't say enough good things about. Let's go. And I got Hamilton Casters. This one I'm very excited about. And I'm very excited about it because they've been in Hamilton for over 111 years. I mean, that's impressive. I know I kept saying that every time I met with them, how impressive it was. And they were saying, yeah, I know, okay, and then now let's go on and let's get this thing going. Let's talk about the project. I just think that it's amazing. After 111 years, we're looking at an expansion to this project here. We've met with the city's working with them. This is the first time in 111 years that they're asking for any kind of help. And we helped them, and at the same time, they helped us because they ended up taking and purchasing the hotel that was next to their property that we were having a lot of issues with. They purchased that property. They're going to expand into that area there. It is very much a win-win for the city and the company, and I'm very excited as they move forward. They'll be creating some jobs as well, but more importantly, they're going to be building a building that will accommodate them for another 100 years, which I'm very excited about. ODW Logistics. This is just, it's a great success story. Again, they were here before I arrived, and there were two guys that were working out of our business incubator in downtown. And when you look at what that company is today and how they grew in our incubator to the point where they could no longer grow. They knew they had to get into a different space. We were able to get them on a floor of the city that actually a state department had left, that was leasing that space. 6th floor was empty, and that just was available. We got them started on the 6th floor of City Hall. It is a company that started out with 2 people. These are, again, this is a company that's growing, and they've grown to 75 employees and are still growing. And what's really good is they're recruiting locally. They said the greatest thing, they weren't sure if they were going to be successful at this, but we promised them they would be, and we were going to do what we could do. But they're recruiting a lot of people right out of college to go right into their work. So we get a lot of very young professionals that are going into this operation here. And they're a great company. They are a great resource for this community. And I'm just, again, very proud. They're going to expand into our 5th floor of our building in the next year, which means, once again, it's us helping our companies to grow as well.
Okay, so moving out and kind of in and more towards our neighborhoods, the west side of Hamilton has actually had a really great year in 2018. So I'm just going to kind of cover a few projects that are happening over there. The West Side Animal Clinic is moving to a new location. This is kind of a mock-up of their building. It's a beautiful building, nice architecture, great landscaping. They're going to be on Northwest Washington Boulevard now, so really excited for them. Kettering Health Network is doing a 16,000 square foot clinic, medical office. There'll be 7 new providers in there.
Could I just interject one sec? It wasn't too many years ago that Kettering was wondering whether or not they were going to keep the hospital in town here. I mean, they had purchased land right out across from Bridgewater Falls. Look at what's happened in this community since then. Again, these are investments that are important for the community, but it's a vote of confidence. When you're making this kind of investment, and they have made a number of investments. This is one. There's another one downtown. You've got another one yet to be announced. This is a vote of confidence, and I am very, very, very pleased to see that.
Thanks, Jody. Thanks, Jody. Some of you may be aware of the Hamilton West Shopping Center. It's best known for its potholes in the parking lot. It's claim to fame. It is getting a massive facelift. So actually, if you're staring at the building, the right part will be coming down, and it will be rebuilt to attract new retail and restaurants and some anchors there. And then the left side will actually be a more high-end indoor storage facility. They're going to be redoing the parking lot, new signage. So Brookwood has got some development going on, and it'll be really great to see that updated. Neil's Famous Barbecue has their new grab and go. So this is their second location. This is kind of a walk up, grab a sandwich. They still have their spot in German Village, but they just did their ribbon cutting last month, so it was great to celebrate with them. Another thing is that the west side has actually seen a huge influx in new residential development. So over there, it's been about 188% increase. I think that's the citywide number, right? In kind of new housing being built. But 123 new homes planned for the Enclave at Twin Run, and then 82 new homes expected to be built in 2019. So more residents means higher tax base, so that's back to our mission of, bringing people here. So, and the houses are really nice and beautiful.
South Hamilton Crossing, really, this one is another exciting project. Again, I think I'm pretty lucky. I was here while this happened, and this is a $32 million project, but more importantly, this is a project that people talked about for over 100 years. This, more than anything, is a statement by our elected officials saying, look, we're going to invest in infrastructure regardless of where it is in town. Wherever infrastructure is important, that's where we're going to make our investment. This was a big project for the city, not only because it talked about it for quite some time, but we were able to attract a number of dollars from the state for the project, really in conjunction with some of the development that took place. We'd actually got money from the state in a whole host of ways, but one of which was by attracting Barclay card. Having crossed this bridge now and started to get used to driving it, I just wonder how we ever dealt with it without it. But again, this was a great project. It's going to open things up tremendously. Another great project, I think, is the Columbia Bridge. The improvements made to that, again, is going to be extremely important. You need your infrastructure to be in good shape. This was a great project for the city. It was overdue, and again, it's a commitment to. It's really a commitment to the infrastructure throughout the city. A point to this East High project. This was one where the discussion took place. Actually, the city manager put together a number of business owners. And I will give them credit because the answer they came up with wasn't what I thought you would normally get. They asked a number of the business owners in the city, if you were going to make an investment in a city, where would you make that investment? And I expected most of them would have said, right in front of my building. We need this, we need that. And it was really the consensus was you need to clean up the entrance to this city. Done and we're working on a number of areas in and around our core, but the entrance to our city really did not look well. So there was an incredible investment that was made there. I think you'll see those types of investments being made into the future in other areas, but this was one where I was very proud that the advice that was given was really not, it wasn't selfish, it wasn't a selfish answer, because many of the business owners don't even live or work on this corridor, but it was an honest answer. If you're gonna do something to make an immediate impression, that's one corridor to do it on.
And to kind of play off of that, so planning for the future, we understand that a lot of people's view, and maybe only view, is driving through Hamilton on Route 4. Route 4 has obviously a lot of car dealerships, and so a lot of fast-moving traffic, and it could need a little beautification. So planning, Liz was going to speak a little bit about this, but the planning department has come up with kind of some initial concepts to Route 4 beautification efforts. And I'm just going to show you a couple of before and after slides of what they're thinking. This be before conditions. Doing some trees, some landscaping, and what do you call those? Not bump outs. The interior.
Oh, your boulevard?
Well, the planning's on the inside. That'll help slow traffic down in a good way. In a good way to slow traffic down. Again, some additional landscaping, trees, pedestrian crosswalks.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's really, you really aren't taking, you aren't taking out the turning lanes. What you're doing is you're directing traffic where it should be going in the first place. A lot of that you could see is painted striped, and it really doesn't preclude anyone from going over those lines. This is really a way of beautifying the corridor and directing traffic to where it was supposed to go in the first place.
So, moving into kind of the urban core, and when we talk about urban core, we don't just talk about downtown Central Business District. We talk about Central Business District, Main Street, Dayton Lane, German Village, Central and Pershing, and Lindenwold. And even then, there's some additional pockets of kind of commercial buildings kind of scattered all over town. So that's what we mean when we say kind of urban core. So Lindenwold also had a really great year last year. They worked with the Miami students to do their kind of revitalization strategy planning, and they identified spots for economic development, beautification efforts, kind of what the long-term, what's the plan to get community vibrancy, and a real revitalization strategy. The plan came out. Here's a couple of the renderings. It's talking about painting crosswalks again. Some of the students had an idea to rehab the bowling alley, to do a restaurant, kind of mixed use. I think someone even proposed a bike shop in the Benny Hoffman Mill, murals. This one really got all of the residents involved too. From that, and I don't know if it's directly from that, but Lindenwold also welcomed a couple of new businesses last year, which it had been a while before since there was some ribbon cuttings in Lindenwold. Kinshow Karate opened, I think it was actually January of this year. I remember talking to them when they were first looking, and they specifically wanted to be in Lindenwold. They didn't just want a building, they wanted a building in Lindenwold. They bought it, they actually own it. They're actually talking about building on top of it and putting apartments above, so they're even expanding on the building, and they've been a really great addition to the neighborhood. That blurry picture is a picture of A&A Pretty Pets, so just a couple of storefronts down, there was a new grooming place that opened up late 2018, and again, it's a local couple that live in the neighborhood that have opened up a business, and we're starting to see calls pick up too about locating in Lindenwold, especially at the service station on the corner. Not just Auto Parts Place, we've actually had a couple of restaurants that have even considered opening up. There's a lot of really cool restaurant concepts that have gone into old service stations, so exciting time for Lindenwold. So you probably all know about this. So I think it was just a couple of weeks ago that we were in this very room with the Miami students working on the Central and Persian corridor planning. And so all around tables, putting dots on the areas of focus. And so this should be coming out in a couple of months, and really excited to dig in more with that and be fun. Another part of that is, you know, in Lindenwold, there had been a good amount of focus in downtown Hamilton, Central Business District, Main Street, and part of the process is not just the planning part with the Miami students, it's our economic development team, the Chamber of Commerce, SBDC, getting into the neighborhood and meeting people. And so meeting property owners so that we know when people call who we can connect them with. And that process has started here on Central and Pershing too. Met with you, I've met with a couple of business owners and just trying to get to know the property owners so that when people call us, we know who to connect them with. So in the Central Business District, here's some before and after pictures. I don't know if you all remember what downtown Central Business District looked like in 2010, but this was it. It had about a 3% occupancy rate, was that right? It was before my time, but not much going on.
It left a lot to be desired.
This is what it looks, well, this is what it looked like in 2015. Sarah's house went into the corner. She actually owns the building and she now lives directly above. A couple of spots down was the Mercantile Lofts. That's actually 42 residential units, loft living, pretty much full all the time. That was really important to get people living downtown so that they could help support the restaurants and the businesses that were going in. There's also quite a few commercial tenants there. We've got CDA, now it's Balloon Gallery and Gift. Pretty much the High Street corridor sits at about 100% occupancy, give or take a few points most of the time. That doesn't include the side streets coming in, just the main corridor. Up a block, this is what that block looked like in 2010. This is now where Art Space is, what it looks like now. So they removed the metal facade off. And now Art Space, which is a live-work concept. So there's an art gallery on the first floor, and the residential units upstairs, which I think there's 42? 42? Oh, Mercantile Lofts is not 42, it's
37?
No, it's like 29. 29 at Mercantile Lofts, 42 at Art Space. You can only live there as an artist and display below. And then right next to it is Renaissance Fine Art, and they are pretty much at 100% occupancy all the time too. When we have downtown loft apartments, they're filled. So this was the hole that was High Street and 2nd Street in 2012. City of Hamilton partnered with Rotary to create Rotary Park. So this is what's there today. There's a permanent ping pong table, cornhole. It's become a great kind of corner gathering space for events such as Alive After 5, Operation Pumpkin, use it to set up tents. It's really good for the people who live in the Mercantile Loft and Art Space who have pets, because now they have a spot to take their pets. You know, that's really important. And then there's a Street Spark mural back there. One of the things I didn't put in the slide that I just thought about, on the top of this parking garage there that's blank right now, just this last year, if you drive up or walk up to the top of the parking garage, there's something called Park 5. And it is a giant oversized chessboard. There's picnic benches, umbrellas. There's some menus up there. You can actually order food and have it delivered to you. It's great views of the city up there. There's actually been Community First Solutions hosted their 100th anniversary party on the rooftop up there, and it's within the Dora district, so technically you can take a drink up there and have a drink on the rooftop deck. So if you haven't checked that out, you should drive to the top of that. So this is the old Elda Biermann building on the corner, what it looked like in 2013. It is now home to StarTech, but it's also home to Alexander's Market in Delhi, Miami Valley, but Ballet is in the back. To have a building of this size reactivated was really catalytic for downtown. I can't imagine if we had all the progress going on downtown and we had to drive past pretty much a whole block that was still sitting dark. So I really can't stress how important it was to light this up, and how rare it is, especially in downtowns, to have an old department store that's actually had something done with it. You're gonna drive to a lot of other communities and see those specific buildings still sitting vacant because they're just too large of a project. You go a little bit down 2nd Street, you're gonna go to where the old hospital was. So 2010, this is prior to the River's Edge Amphitheater, which is here now, home to the Big River Get Down. Does everybody in here know that we are the Revivalists? Anybody know who the band the Revivalists are? One person. It's a nationally known, I guess they're kind of folk rock too. The lead singer is from Hamilton, so he comes back every year and hosts our own music festival, which again is pretty rare. And he's the headlining act, which I don't know if we could ever have gotten an act that big without him being a hometown guy, but it's a day-long festival. And then they just recently, I would say within the last couple weeks, on riversedgelive.com just released their whole lineup for the rest of the year. I do not know them by heart, but riversedgelive.com, check it out. And River's Edge at Markham Park consistently wins awards, not just for Hamilton, but for the region. They've won a couple Cincinnati A-list awards. So River's Edge Amphitheater is in the back, and this is 2013 view of Markham Park, which this is what it looks like now. So this was a $4 million park renovation. What's important to know is that this was a private donation to the Hamilton Parks Conservancy. This was not funded by the city or the parks. I forget the Markham family. I was just making sure it was the Markham family. Donated $4 million to make this park happen. So now there's a splash pad. There's also another water feature. It's now home to the Hamilton Flea, and it's starting to pick up as far as events and programming there. It's been a great addition. It's like we have our own little central park. And if you know, the American Planning Association in 2018 voted this one of the top 5 great public spaces. So there's only 5 that they award each year.
That's impressive.
Yes.
That's very impressive.
They're up there. Central Park in New York has won this award. It's the planning department is really geeked out about this, but trust me, it's a great honor to get the American Planning Association award. So across from River's Edge, Markham Park is the Markham, not to be confused with Markham Park, which is now, I think it's 102 apartments with 5 commercial spaces below. In some later slides, I'll get into what's going into the commercial spaces. That's in the coming soon section. But they're at about, how much have they rented out yet?
I know they're around 75% occupancy, which is it's unheard of. But again, it's great. Again, people are starting to move back here, and people are beginning to enjoy what's the amenities that are throughout the city.
And again, additional residence makes it important for our small businesses to thrive. You got to have feet on the street to frequent your businesses, so we love it when people are living downtown. Kirsch CPA was, this has been within the last maybe 6 to 8 months.
Yeah, and what I would like to say about this one that I really first and foremost like is first of all, John Kirsch's father used to be the city manager for the city, and there's nothing that, if I were in his father's place, I'm sure he's extremely proud of the fact that he brought his firm. He had multiple locations of his accounting firm. They consolidated them and they brought them back to the city of Hamilton, and that's really quite impressive. It's a great story. They're a great business, and they're very happy to be here. I know that he said he wasn't sure exactly how people would respond, and it wasn't shortly after they moved in. He said, man, people absolutely love being in the downtown here.
So it's not just Kirsch CPA that's in there. Actually, Casper and Casper Law Office is on the first floor. I think there's an additional law office in the back. I'm blanking on the name. And then is 80 Acres in there right now?
They're in a spot there for a short period of time. Their offices are in there, but we think that it's going to be a part of their grand expansive plan, and I guess that will be named later, I guess.
So, and I don't have a slide for this next one because I, again, thought of it on the drive here. Ohio Casualty Building, everybody knows what that building is, right? If you were to drive by during the day, but especially at night, you can see the top 2 floors are lit up with lights, because it's currently being rehabbed to the top 2 floors will be student housing for the international students from Miami University. So how many students are they able to accommodate? Ask him a question
I know
he
it's
didn't
over
know.
100.
Yeah, so we'll have over 100 students living in our downtown core, and then they're well, it's not Ohio Casualty anymore. They call it 3rd and Dayton, and they're actively recruiting for restaurants. I'm sure they'd gladly take a hotel. It'd be really great to get that reactivated, because that's, 3 buildings altogether. And then this is just a slide of kind of on the High Street side. Some of the businesses, obviously, Made to Love, Almond Sisters, Henry's Candy, but even, Community Design Alliance. We've got Sarah's House, High Street Cafe, Basil's. And I didn't go into it here, but a lot of the growth in the Central Business District specifically, you're not actually seeing on High Street. It's happening on the side streets. So if you were to go down 3rd Street, kind of towards Court, on the left where the old Lipson's Cafe used to be, you'll see that building is, the owner actually moved back from Seattle, Washington to start rehabbing that. He has a couple ideas, but it'll probably be a restaurant entertainment venue. Then you've got the Benison Event Center, obviously 80 acres on that side, Pinball Garage, which I'll get into a little later, but a lot of the growth in the Central Business District is happening off the side, so if you haven't kind of driven around those, you should. German Village also had a pretty good year. So, well, this didn't happen this year, but 3rd Street Plaza was redone, another infrastructure project. It's brick pavers that you can they actually have ballards that you could insert and kind of close it off for a street festival.
The one thing I would say about that particular project more than anything is it was a great collaboration between property owners within that stretch there, the Lane Library, the Community Foundation, and the city. That's how things get done, and commitments from those people allowed for that project to go much, much quicker, because if the city was doing that project unto itself, it just wouldn't have, we wouldn't have been able to do it. We just have too many needs all over the place. That was a great commitment on the property owners in those particular groups.
And the German Village Historic Society, I've met with them a couple of times, and they are putting together a couple of new events that will hopefully be hosted in there. I heard that one may have to do with wine, so that would be fun. So, anybody know where the old academy used to be down in German Village? Again, in the last few months, a game night has gone in there. So like, what is a game night? It is a restaurant, it is a bar, but it's also a place where you can go in. I think they have probably hundreds, if not 1,000 board games that you can play. So the whole thing is you go in there, you don't necessarily have to eat, but you can grab a game, have a couple of drinks with your friends. One whole side, if you're into this, is like, they have special tables for, is it Dungeons and Magic?
Yeah,
I don't know.
I'm too old for that.
Especially, what do they call them? RPGs.
Yeah.
I don't know what that means, but it's RPGs. You should definitely.
They've got something for everyone. It is really fun. I think it's great if you take a look at those games there. You go through those games and it's like all those games you remember growing up and stuff, and it's like before your cell phones and everything that, I mean, those are the games that, and they're all there. Extremely fun, very fun time.
So also across the street where Freddie's Bakery used to be, it's not technically open to the public. This is her distribution facility, but she is a vegan baker called Chubby Bunny. So, but it's only going to be her distribution facility for a little while longer, because she will be opening up a permanent retail location on Main Street, kind of next to Unsung Salvage, next year. This was just kind of an in-between point to get her to stop commuting to Cincinnati to get her here, then to get her to a permanent spot. So. A big project last year was the Main Street streetscape. So this was huge. Obviously, a big part of it was actually they laid a new water main down the middle of the street. And then they did brick pavers, new lampposts with pedestrian level lighting. I don't know if you remember, but the lighting was very high up. They actually made it very dark on the street, and they undergrounded all of the overhead wires. So it's making it a more pedestrian-friendly, more well-lit place. Obviously, tough for the businesses. So if you haven't frequented your Main Street businesses recently, show them some love. But it is all done, and they're gearing up for a great summer. Davis Building. So this is probably the one that's closest to being done right now. So the Davis Building is where the Hughes Pharmacy used to be. Well, the Hughes Pharmacy is still there, they've just moved behind. So it's now known as the Davis Building. It has 12 apartments that are getting ready to open up in about the next 3 to 4 weeks, I would say. They're one-bedroom studios, one bedroom or studios. They're very affordable. I don't think any of them, if they are at $1,000, it's just a little bit above, and they go down to $600 to $700, depending on which view of Main Street you get and kind of the layout. And then below it, you have Two Little Buds, and then Village Parlor Ice Cream just opened up on the corner. They opened up in the dead of winter, and they've been packed every day. It's amazing. And then there's another business going in, which I will tell you about in just a little bit. So I would say that, again, Central Business District, doing well, but Main Street has been where we've seen the most growth in the last couple of years. I think there's been over 30, maybe even close to 35 new businesses open up on Main Street just in the last few years. Some of those highlights being Roll-On-In Sushi Burrito, Flourish Home, Petals and Wicks, which used to be Sherry's Petals. Now you can pour your own candle, but she actually just expanded, and you can make your own body butters, and you can go in there and do classes. Main Street Vinyl, tons of great places to check out. It's really become even a little bit more retail than the Central Business District side. So what's left to do on Main Street? When we talk about like redevelopment projects, what the core and City of Hamilton has, this is our redevelopment projects. So it's 244 Main Street. This is a core Hamilton owned building. Actively looking for developers. It could have 1 to 2 retail or restaurant space on the first floor, and then you could do 2 apartments, 4 apartments. I even had one person that wanted to make it their whole house on the upper floors, but there's 2 separate entrances. We've definitely had a lot of interest, but no one signed on the dotted line for that. 244 Main Street and 16 North D. Those are another core Hamilton-owned pair of buildings. They're being packaged together. So if you were to go after those, you would take both buildings, and it's targeted for restaurant to be an anchor. So we're trying to do restaurants as anchors on each block. So if you're a restaurant looking for a space, 244 Main Street and 16 North D is definitely one that we've shown a lot. We may be close to having someone there. I will preface, all of these we've shown tons of times, lots of interest, nothing to announce yet, but all things to be very hopeful for. Same with 205 Main Street. We do have a developers looking to do 6 historic apartments above and a restaurant tenant below. Hopefully that'll be something we can announce in the next 3 to 4 months. Give us some time.
Hopefully sooner.
Yeah. And then 501 Main Street is actually semi-new to our list. We've only been kind of actively promoting it for maybe 6 months. It's in the 500 block of Main Street. Doesn't have to be a restaurant, can be retail, can be whatever you want on the bottom, and then there's 1 apartment above. So we will probably talk about this more in the 2nd and 5th sessions, but I just wanted to let you know that these are the projects that the city and Core Hamilton do have available if you are interested. So, I know it's a whirlwind. Everybody doing okay? It's a lot of information. So, everyone's favorite part though. What's coming soon? So, some of the new businesses that have already opened up in 2019, the Blank Space Event Center, which is across from Community First Solutions, again, one of those on those arteries off of High Street. It's an event venue, and it actually has 2 apartments above, which are both filled. Village Parlor and Ice Cream on Main Street. Balloon Gallery and Gift, which went into the old Art Off Sims on High Street. And then the Benison Event Center. It's not technically open, it'll be open in a couple of weeks, but that is the old Chaco Bank building right behind the city building.
I was going to say, if you've noticed a theme here, if anything, again, we've started out in the core. You look at the buildings that are along High Street and Main Street, and really what's happening now is we're building out into the streets off of that. And that's what ideally you're supposed to have happen, and hopefully you have some organic growth within that, but eventually what you're going to see is demand pick up so that the growth in demand for space is going to happen from that major artery.
Yeah, and that's true of the Benison. So again, huge bank building, not every small business wants a whole bank building. So actually the vault part of it will be the wedding and event venue. And then on the side that's more office space, they're actively promoting office space for rent, and they already have a couple of tenants. If anyone's looking for downtown office space, this is a very affordable place to open and within walking distance to everything. Question I get asked at least 15 times a day, give or take, is what's going into the old quarter barrel. And sadly, I cannot tell you, but I do know. Within, a couple of days of quarter barrel leaving, we had, in the first couple of weeks, we had at least 30 calls about the building. We toured about 20 people through the space. We had a very quick turnaround for requests for qualifications, which is tell us what you want to do with the space and your business plan. We had 5 people submit with that, and the top one has been chosen, and we're very hopeful that the other 2 and the kind of the top 3 will also find a place to land here in Hamilton. So we really got potentially 3 places out of it. I would say it will be announced in a couple of weeks. We've known for a long time. The holdup is really because the government was shut down, and the brewery equipment, they have to do a couple creative things to make sure that they can open in a reasonable timeline. Otherwise, to wait on the brewery permit, they might be waiting for a whole another year, and we don't want to wait that long to activate the space. But you should be hearing about it very soon. And what I can say, it's a very well-established restaurant group that's is regionally, but not from this area. They know what they're doing, and we're really hopeful that it'll be a long-standing restaurant space for us for a while. The other spot that's going into the Davis building is, and she will be opening, her opening date, her grand opening, is April 13th, so not this Saturday, but next Saturday. It's Scripted Studio, again, right next to Village Ice Cream. It's a high-end stationery shop, gift shop. It is a beautiful space, but she is local. Her name is Carrie O'Neill. She actually she's a graphic designer by trade. She has a great online business. Her wrapping paper that she designed was actually stocked by Target this year. So for her, it's been great to have her back in town and for her to choose to open up on Main Street. So April 13th, check her out. This is Jody's favorite.
Well, look at that. That's a cool picture. I mean, everyone's looking at it thinking they're burning up, but it's what they're making that is really cool.
They're making alcoholic ice cream. It's called Buzz Bowl Creamery. It's actually going into where the sushi, it's a partnership between Roland and the sushi burrito place. So they're going into part of that building. It's not going into its own storefront. It'll be inside of there. Opening up in the, probably by summer. They did a test run at Ice Fest, and it went really well. So you can go in, choose your liquor, choose your ice cream flavor, and they mix it right up. They do shakes, scoops.
That's amazing.
The fun thing, I guess, about it is because we have the Dora District, which is the outdoor refreshment area, you can actually take your boozy milkshake to go with you in the plastic cup. So, very exciting. So the Markham apartments, which we talked about, there's 5 commercial spaces on the first floor. So 4 of them are filled. One on the corner is Tano's, Tano's Bistro. They are out of Loveland. It's more of a white tablecloth, kind of finer dining restaurant. Casual Pint, which is, again, a probably the closest example is in Loveland. It's, I don't know, they'll stock hundreds of different types of craft brews, huge tap list. They'll have some food like pretzels and light snacks. Aveda Hair Salon, Revive Studios, which will be the first business to open up in there. They're almost finished. And then Bones Brothers Wings, which was originally a food truck out of Cincinnati. They will be going in as well. And then there's one retail space that's left, 1,500 square feet. So if any, and they're really targeting not for restaurants, for a retail component that would help service the residents above, and especially with the hotel directly across the street. So Pinball Garage, I think I hinted a little bit to this, but this is on 3rd Street. It's on your way to German Village. It's still considered Central Business District. It is what it sounds. It's in the old Goodyear building that's directly behind the parking garage. So yay for an adaptive reuse of an old Goodyear building. Yeah. So all of the all of the roll-up doors, all that you see will be able to be rolled up. You'll walk in, it'll be probably close to 100 pinball machines. It'll be a full bar. It'll be a restaurant. What they call it is kind of like a rapid-fire pizza. You'll be able to go in, kind of order your ingredients, and they'll make it. You can either sit in there's another front area that you can sit and eat it, or you could actually have table service, sit down, and have them serve it to you kind of in the back area where the pinball machines are.
I was going to say that not only is this being planned, though, the kind of the retail side of it, he's got a manufacturing aspect of his business. These machines he's making in the back part of his building. That's what he started out with. This is how he had really started his business, is making these machines and selling them. Taking it to the next level and making it a barcade was something that he wanted to do, and is something that he's actually trying to do right now. He's going through, he's met with the SBA, and he's worked with the SBDC, and went and met with bankers about loans and that sort of thing. But really, it started out at manufacturing. This is just another aspect of his business. Very neat, though.
And so his business, it's a pinball machine that can play, it's electronic, and it can play up to 3,000 games on one machine. And he was actually on Shark Tank, and he got funded. So you have to search, VP Cabs is the name of his manufacturing business, and he was on Shark Tank.
Well, he was just on, his machines were just on in Practical Jokers the last Friday night, I guess. They had a couple of those machines on there as well.
Located at 24 South 2nd Street will be something called Lounge 24. It will be a piano and wine bar. She hasn't announced too much yet. Inside the same structure, it's where the old Pop Revolution used to be, kind of by the courthouse. So piano, wine bar, but she also does Mona Lisa permanent tattoos in the space, so she's double business in one space. 1029 High Street will be the home of the new Wingstop in the East High corridor. Also, kind of across the street from Wingstop, 918 High Street will be a new coffee shop called The Fringe. And they will do smoothies and sandwiches, and their building is beautiful. That building hadn't been activated in so long. They just repainted it. Tons of murals inside. Great couple, really looking to get involved in the community. Definitely check them out. They should be open in about a month or two. But the progress, you can already peek in the windows. It's very impressive. Another one I get asked about a lot is Chipotle did break ground, if you're a Chipotle fan, on the west side of Hamilton. What's the address?
Yeah,
I don't know.
It's right next to Bob Evans, in front of the movie theater.
By the new Goodwill.
No, down from that. Yeah.
By Aldi.
Yes, between
remember.
Aldi's and.
And it'll be one of the first Chipotles. I guess there's a couple. There's one in someplace close to Columbus in Ohio, but it'll have Chipotlanes. So it's a drive-through Chipotlanes.
Yeah, that's great.
So, okay, that's what's coming soon.
And really, I'm just going to touch on Spooky Nook stuff, because you guys probably have had overload on Spooky Nook, but Spooky Nook, it doesn't matter who you talk to. I talked to a number of developers, and they kind of reaffirm what I had believed, which is great because you always need that feedback. But really, developers are looking at this and they're saying this is really going to transform your community, and really all of our community, because I believe there's a lot of people that are going to benefit from it. They're going to have about 200 jobs, but full-time jobs, but there's going to be a lot of part-time jobs. That's where I look at opportunities, especially for the kids in this community, to get some of that part-time work while they're going to school. It's going to be a great environment. I have a feeling that where I come from, they've got a lot of advanced sporting places, really places they call them acceleration programs. And I think that the athlete that you're going to see developed because of the amenities that we have here, you're going to see a very different athlete come through the city and go through our sports programs. So because before we didn't have all of what this facility is going to have. Great training facility. It'll have a number of components to it. It'll have a retail component to it as well. You know, and you take a look at the number of visitors a year to the one that they have in Pennsylvania. Again, they look at this facility as being something they wish they had in Lancaster. They're about 10, 15 miles outside of the city of Lancaster in what is really an industrial place. It was an old industrial building. That represents 1.1 million people that have visited their facility. And they have not, they've done a remarkable job being able to really get that exposure so early. But they're really not in the same type of environment as they'll be here. They look at the environment that they have here as being in the core of the city as being a tremendous attribute for the business, because they know what they have there is they got some people that are kind of roaming around the facility wondering what to do in between games and stuff. They know that at least here, they're going to be able to go out and about, hit the shops, go to the restaurants, that sort of thing. The spillover into our community is going to be phenomenal, and it's going to be exactly what our business owners need. And we anticipate that this will be a great project. Like I said, I have a lot of developers that have come through here that we've recruited through here. That is their comment is, wow, this is just going to change Hamilton in just such a good way. Yeah, that gives you an idea, though. When it comes to convention space, the one we'll be able to seat over 1,000 people at the convention here. You look at the one that we would compete with is Duke Center. That's really, there isn't anything around us that's remotely close. That's why it's going to be a great amenity, because not only will it be busy during weekends, during tournaments and stuff, but we're going to have the ability to bring in trade shows and conventions, and that's a big part of their business, becoming a big part of their business in Lancaster. I can see it as being, again, you have an urban environment which just gives people stuff to do, and that's going to be an important part of attracting those types of businesses to those kind of events to that complex.
Well, I had a question first thing when I walked in about traffic and traffic flow and congestion, and I don't have this slide in here, but one of the things that we hope to do is get people parked. They come in, they park on the complex in their parking facilities, and then there will be transportation options. So I don't know if it's the Spooky Nook Circulator or what the name will be, but the hope is that they can hop on that and get to any section of town that they would like to go to, so they don't get in their cars and they're not parking on street parking. They get there and they don't leave again until they're heading back out of town. So
and that's where I think even especially at a time when we're looking at Central Avenue and the Main Street, some of these other areas, if we're if we're using that circulator, people are going to get on it. We're going to have a map of things to happen, things where they can go to look at stuff, buy stuff, be good consumers. That circulator is going to help us direct that traffic there. So that's going to be a big part of that complex as well. It's an important part because when you're making the investment that we will make as a city, is they are making as an operator of this facility, we want to try keep as much of those tourism dollars as we can. And it's going to make a big difference. Being in, again, for us to be able to steer the traffic into the areas of the city that we're looking for is going to be how we reactivate Central Avenue and the Lindenwold area. That's how we're going to be able to do it. We're going to be able to give it that exposure that it might not otherwise be able to get.
So when we talk about, and again, I'm coming back again to talk about more of the how for economic development. Today was just like what's going on everywhere, and as you can see, we didn't even touch on everything that's going on, but it's a lot everywhere. But one of the things we like to do is not just recruit businesses, but we also like to make sure that they have the necessary tools they need to stay in business and be successful. So we kind of call that layering of incentives. There's, all the plates are spinning at the same time. One of the things we did last year is we worked to establish community entertainment districts. This is different than the outdoor refreshment area I was talking about. So there's now 2 community entertainment districts, and what they are, there's one on the Main Street side and there's one on the German Village Central Business, and it opened up 15 additional liquor licenses for that area. Typically what you see in towns, especially smaller towns, is that a long time ago, all of the liquor licenses were gone and there's none left, and if you wanted to get one, you'd have to buy one for $50,000, $75,000. It was a real barrier to entry for especially restaurants who oftentimes need to sell alcohol to keep their cost per plate low. What we noticed here is that our liquor license, we still had some, which was, again, rare, but they were starting to get low. And we knew that we had enough restaurants in the pipeline for downtown Central Business District area that would take up the remainder of what we had for community-wide. So you are able to establish community entertainment districts if you have a minimum of a $50 million investment happening in whatever area that is. So we were able to kind of split Spooky Nook down the middle, since it's about 144 million, and create 2 districts. And so those liquor licenses have to stay in this geographic area. They are able to get them at cost from state level, so it's just a couple $1,000s. Thing is, they don't own them, they can't sell them, and if they were to move out of the district, they would come back to the district. But why this is really important, and that we needed to do it now and not later, is that now anybody that's going to that area could very easily just get a community entertainment district license, but it opens up the remainder that we had community-wide for other parts of the community. So Lindenwold, Central and Persian, so that we had liquor licenses to spread out over town and they weren't all sucked up in our in the Main Street downtown area. So this was something that just happened in the last few months. Just when you hear it's only on this geographic area, it is because of the amount of investment that allowed us to create those districts. And then the Dora, which I've touched on a lot, again, it kind of mirrors downtown Central Business District, German Village, Main Street. You're able to go into a liquor serving establishment, buy a drink, and walk out. What you're not allowed to do is roll up with your own cooler, bring a beverage from home, go to your car, fill your flask. You can't do that. It's about supporting our local liquor serving establishments. It has to be in a designated cup. And then they're able to walk around the district, support other retail. We definitely had our retail businesses that's seen an uptick in foot traffic because people are just moving around more. They're not sitting at a bar for 20, 30 minutes to have a drink. They're just grabbing it and going. So we have, I would say, just from my familiarity with the DORA districts across Ohio, that Hamilton has one of the most used designated outdoor refreshment areas. We have gone through thousands of cups. So it's really great to see those stats and that people are using it. This one's
Yeah, opportunity zones. This is something that was passed out of the last session by Congress. It's a federal law Why this is important, it's important for a couple of reasons. It's a great economic development tool. It's a federal program. What it does is it's intended to draw capital for investment in areas that are really underserved. And so you look at the area that the Spooky Nook is in, that census tract qualified. I'd actually submitted for 4 districts. Census tracts, they probably thought I was being greedy and they only gave me 2. I'm glad I got 2. But they're a great attribute. What I'd like to see is for this to be a tool that's used to bring investment into these areas. If you take a look, there is a significant amount of the second ward that is covered by this opportunity zone. And actually, it was just yesterday, this is a great story. The governor is putting together a special conference where they've invited in investors, and on April 24th, it's in Columbus, and they are bringing investors to show them the opportunity zones and the opportunity that investors that may not be from the state have in certain areas of the state to invest. We were one of 3 communities that will be highlighted during that conference. They had a film crew out here yesterday, and we were walking around with them, showing them the different areas, and we are determined that this program will serve not only the Spooky Nook District, that I think it will, but this is a great tool for us to be using in on along Central and within the second ward. It can be used for a number of different things, but ultimately the designation is intended to be an attribute that will bring in investment dollars. So we're very happy to have been able to get 2 of them. We will be pitching both of these areas when we're up in Columbus. We're always pitching the areas because, again, it's a great tool for reinvestment in these areas.
So grateful for all of you for bearing with us for an hour. This is the first hour and 20 minutes. This is the first time we've tried to cram all of that into one presentation. Usually they're broken out into little chunks. So this was like drinking from a fire hose for all of you. And this wasn't even everything. That being said, if you have questions that are outside of what we covered today, we're happy to try to address them. If it's too big of a topic, we can put it, what do you call it, the parking lot, and then make sure it gets addressed later. But
I think if I was to emphasize anything to, especially all of you that have attended this meeting, from the city's perspective, from our elected officials, from city staff, we are successful in economic development collectively when everybody is experiencing economic development throughout the city. It's not just the west side, it's not just the east side, it's everywhere in the city. That's how we will define success in economic development. We've showed you some of the success that we've had. Until we have it everywhere, and to those things that are important to people, we won't be satisfied. And I can assure you, the process that you guys went through the other day was very instructive for city staff, because many of us aren't from here. Heck, I'm from Grand Forks, North Dakota. I moved here from Minneapolis. I'm only as smart as the information that you guys provide to us. We can only deal with those things that are important to you based upon the input that you give us. And to be quite honest with you, just some of the things that were shared with us during that meeting, it surprised me. But what you realize is what's important one side of the city isn't necessarily important to another side of the city. You have to get down at this level, and you have to ask those questions. What's important to you, and what's going to be, how are you going to measure success? And then let us help in whatever way we can to help you guys create that success.
Questions? I'm ready for questions. Okay.
Do you have any questions? Anybody have a question?
Real quick, what were there were 2 opportunity zones?
That's correct.
Okay, the second word was one, and did you say?
There's a census tract up where Spooky Nook is, right up in this area, right up here. It covers 1/2 of Main Street, so believe me, these boundaries were not of my choosing. They are census tracts, and so we qualified 2 of our census tracts. This is the other one down in here, and it goes down, and it's on, let's see, north, south. So it's on the west side of Pleasant, and it goes over, picks up River Road, but all of the campus and the Vora, and this area here, all of which is in this zone. Yeah.
So that's pretty much it.
Their map is in here. It's kind of a more rough, it's not, doesn't show the exact streets, but it's the green area on page 14.
What were the 2 zones that were not approved, and are you going to revisit that in the future?
You know, I know if they gave us a second shot at those zones, I'd gladly put them in. I chose one of the census tracts directly across from the Spooky Nook site because that's where we're going to have a lot of the redevelopment as well. And then a census tract I tried to pick up was, they probably caught me, but it was an eligible census tract. It just picked up the area that our industrial park was in. And I thought, well, if that's what it takes to bring businesses to our community, then I'll try that. Well, they gave me my top 2 choices, and I ranked them as to level of importance, and I ranked both of those my top two choices, and they gave me those. So the other 2 were 3 and 4, and they didn't give me those. So be it. They were great choices, great areas that have great opportunity. No pun intended.
So when the businesses want to come into the city of Hamilton, are there many who are looking like, okay, the central, that business is central, Persian Avenue, in that area? Because I know there are some empty commercial properties. There are signs, one of them building today, I believe, for a bar and grill, right on Central. Yeah, that's Central. But are there anyone showing interest in those properties that are here? They may be owned by some. I know the old Hamilton windows and doors, that's for sale. Anybody showing interest in a property like that would be mixed use?
I actually toured Hamilton Window and Doors with the property owner, and I did connect him with one person who reached out to me that wanted to do a retail business in there. So we're starting to make those connections. I haven't got a ton of calls, but that doesn't mean that they're not out there, because not every call is going to come to me. Sometimes they're coming to our Small Business Development Center. Sometimes they're coming to Chamber of Commerce. Sometimes they're just calling the number on the door, and hopefully they're successful at getting in touch with that property owner. But that's part of what we're trying to do, especially with working more. I mean, we're really excited to be here, especially the Miami plan, identifying the areas, because that gives us a roadmap to go, who are those property owners? Do we have a relationship with them? What's the building look like inside? Are they able to rent? Or is it going to take $100,000 to get that building into rentable condition? And are they going to invest that $100,000, or is that on the tenant? And it's just and then they're going to ask the tenant to rent. There's a lot of complexities with buildings that are privately owned that we spend a lot of time trying to figure out, so that we can connect it when the time is right.
So what we typically do is, say a call comes in, we pick up, they may give us the parameters. I don't have to pick it unless they tell me I want to be on High Street or Main Street. First of all, that's going to be getting increasingly difficult for them to accomplish unless they tell me that. They're asking me, they may be saying, tell me the side, or give me what properties you have based upon the size of the building. So we will, and we'll have a pretty good idea to what they're looking for lease. We present to them a list of potential properties.
That's a good point. So we'll get a call. I need 1,000 square feet. I don't want to pay more than $850 a month. It needs to have 3-phase electric. It needs windows. So we're trying to filter out through that list of deliverables. Now, not everybody comes to us at that level. We are getting more and more people who are ready to find space, but sometimes people just call us and like, I have a business idea and I don't know what to do with it. And then we put them into the proper channels. So hooking them up with the Small Business Development Center to start working on their business plan. And then we get them in the step queue so that we can, and then we track them, we check in on them all the time until they're ready to look for space. Questions? Yes, go ahead.
Core, that's an implement, that's composed of many different institutions, from what I understand, and people, kind of, the core group. Have they kind of, I don't want to say exhausted their funds, but are they kind of at their limit as far as the buildings that they are pretty much kind of taking in? And then they're leasing the space out, right? And the buildings that they have, are they renovating and selling them?
What I would say, here's what I would say about that is they do have some buildings that they are leasing out. I think they would prefer to sell those. But what we've learned, and we learned this early, and heck, we're still learning about it, there are some buildings that are, when I think of some of the areas in the city, we could have every one of these buildings filled up. We have some property owners that just flat out don't care. And that's sad. What's good about it is we don't have a lot of them, but some of them just don't care. Well, it's very hard for us to jumpstart those buildings because they aren't interested in putting anything in it. They want the tenant to put money into their building. It's like, well, they're new businesses, startups, they're already going to be on a very tight budget. They can't afford to have their capital caught up in fixing up their landlord's building. So what we learned through the core is that to be able to control those properties and be able to get them into shape so that they can be leased out. What is also true about that is the core does own buildings, so as the result, what they are going to do eventually is spin those buildings off to someone that may be an investor. That will free up money for them to do other projects.
Their goal is to keep moving, but yeah, they've definitely got to start selling some buildings so that they can move the money.
Yeah.
So Porcelana is the one, the green one, and then the 244-16 North D. They're not trying to rehab those properties and rent. They're trying to get those into the hands of a developer to do the project. Yeah, so that the money can begin to move. And you'll hear from CORE next week. There'll be a representative from CORE here.
Are residential developers coming more into the urban area to start building? We have a lot of open areas.
We do have, and again, doing greenfield development is the most desired with a lot of developers. And I say greenfield is one where no one's built on it before. And the reason why it is you don't have to deal with any contaminated soils or stuff like that. You usually have enough land to do with what you want, and it's easier planned. You have less barriers. Having said that, there's more of a desire right now to be building closer to the core. So that really is something that we've gotten a number of people. In fact, people that want to do these infill projects. We're working with a developer right now where we're potentially going to be doing some kind of an event that would be focused mostly on infill development by developers. So it'd be almost like a home show. And usually a home show is done in a new residential subdivision. We're trying to, and it's not been fleshed out quite a bit, but this is an idea that we have where we would like to see them do somewhat of a home show, but as infill in the older parts of our city. And that's something that we're working through, but I think that is more powerful for us right now because there's still a desire, well, there's becoming more and more a desire to move back into the core of these cities. And the core meaning this area here, this is the core of the city.
Real quick, I want to be respectful of people's time, so I'm sure you'll be around. But as we close, here's what I hope that you know. The scope, magnitude, and diversity of what's happening in Hamilton. Did you see it today? Did you see a little glimpse of all the different developments that were happening? That's what we hope you walk away with today. So this is just one of the next 4, so it's kind of foundational. You see they're doing developments on the west side, in the core, they're doing them in German Village. And so our goal is, as we do the next 4, we're going to have different topics, as I already shared, that we get educated as a community. Then it starts to spark ideas of what can we do for our own communities here in 2nd and 4th Ward. Then we can come up with ideas, because again, this started as a grassroots. SECA, which stands for the Southeast Civic Association, there was a steering committee. There were citizens in the community that started coming out in December. So we met in December, we met January, February, and March, and we tried to get topics that suited our community and what we wanted to know about. So as we shared, we kind of gave you foundational. Then we're going to build. We'll have stuff for the entrepreneur, for the small business owner, if you're looking at housing. So we invite you to come each week, and we wanted them close together so that once we get the information and the knowledge, then we can start to work together to say this is what we want for our community, so we can be ready for things like Spooky Hill and any other developments that the city has. Does that sound good? Mm-hmm. Very good. So I just wanted to give a shout out to SECA. Bob Harris is the president of SECA, Wayne Jarrett's the vice president. I also want to thank, can we give them a nice round of applause?
I'm not kidding. We're really grateful that you all took the evening to come out and spend time with us. We are appreciative of the opportunity to share of what's happening, so really thank you for putting it
Right, and that's
together.
what I wanted to do. Thank all of you. Invite friends to come out next week. Come back again. As you said, there are other topics that we have, other information. Each session may be a little different. So again, I'm available afterwards if you have questions, if you want to ask me something. I'm here. There are sign-up sheets because I'd like to get an email listing, and then I can send you out a